Alright, so to get started here, I got this 3D printed Eddie. I printed him out a little bit smaller than he was supposed to be. It's because I didn't want this diorama to be super big. So I'm just gluing him together before I paint. If I print something bigger, I will paint everything and then glue it together separately. But since this is small and it's not that many colors, and I wasn't trying to get like a ton of detail on it, I glued it together. Actually, I guess I kept his legs separate so I could get behind the guitar. That's what it was. So I paint the guitar and his leather jacket with a gloss black, and his boots are gloss. Then I go in with just some flat black. I'm doing his jeans. Then I go in with a little bit of green. I do his jacket. I found a good reference image of Eddie and his stunt double from that scene behind the scenes, so that's not all color graded from the upside down, so everything looks darker in the upside down. So it was nice to be able to find a picture of his actual costume that wasn't a weird color. So then I paint his shirt. I try to add his little logo to his white shirt just so you can kind of tell what it is. And his bandana's got a little bit of white detail on it. Then I paint his hair brown. I go in with a skin color. I paint all his hands and his face. And also he's got a couple rips on his jeans I paint with the same skin color. Now I drew out this blueprint of his actual house, his trailer from the show, and I decided the size I would need from that. And you can see that's to scale. That door is to scale with Eddie. So that's kind of what I based the display on. I ended up not doing like the full door all the way down to the steps. I wanted to just focus on like mostly the roof. So I'm just using some foam board here. This is a technique that like architects use when they do mock-ups. You cut the back of your foam and try not to cut through the paper on the front. The same thickness as the foam board itself, so that when you peel the foam off the board, you can scrape it off with a ruler like this. It's a lot easier. Basically, you're peeling the foam away from the paper, so that when you put your other piece of foam board, you have that piece of paper that covers the foam outside. So like that. So instead of seeing that foam, now you have that paper that covers the corner. And they use that technique a lot in the architecture of things, just to make sure that there's no rough foam edges. It makes everything smoother. And so this is the door. This is just like the very top of the door. So I cut out the window, and I put that on the back piece there. This is cardstock. I'm just using some cardstock. And then this little piece here, I get all my angle cuts to make the trim, like the door trim. So you can see how that goes up there. And then I had a little bit of some vinyl, some heat transfer vinyl. So what I ended up doing is I cut it and I threw the vinyl out. And then I kept this, the clear protective part. And I just pushed that down on the paper, and then I put the frame piece on top of that. My thought was that when that was painted, it would be shiny, be more shiny, so it would kind of look like a window at night. and I don't know if it really comes across super well considering everything's so dark. But it was just a thought I had, and I tried it. So now what I'm doing is I'm adding a little bit of texture to this wall of this trailer here, doing kind of like the siding. So I'm just using ruler and just a metal clay tool, and I'm just carving in lines on that. It kind of looks like the siding that would be on a trailer. So now that that is done, I can go in and put the door on. And then once the door is on, I go through and I glue the trim pieces on. I'm using that little silicone tool to dip down into my glue, just because the nozzle on my glue is it's pretty much done. So then now I switch over to some hot glue, and I can put these two pieces together. This is the front wall and the roof. They're the same exact size pieces of foam. Now I found this piece of cardboard from some lights I bought, or some shelves I bought, and if you peel the paper off the back, you're left with this really nice ridge, and at this scale it kind of looks like the metal roofing. So I cut that to shape. And then add a little bit of glue to the roof. Just glue that right on top. I put it in place where I want it. Then I hold it down, and then I cut the overhang off. So now that that's all cut and I can see exactly how big it was, I had a little bit of paper left to trim off. So this is the actual diorama box. So I'm just gluing this together. And then there's the back. I did that same kind of technique on the front of these with the paper. Fold the paper over to cover the foam edges. And I just glued the back piece to that, and then I make sure that my little house fits in there. So now I bought some Model Magic at the dollar store because it's super cheap, and I don't use air dry clay a ton, but I used it to sculpt the vent, little air vent that goes on the roof, probably from the bathroom. Just kind of shaped that little groove in there, and then kind of rolled it to make sure it stayed round. And then this is the guitar amp that he stands next to Eddie. Technically, in this like diorama, Dustin is on the roof too. He's just kind of off to the left where you wouldn't be able to see him, and he's got like a ton of amps up there. But Eddie's got like this little amp next to his foot that he stands on in one scene. So I wanted to make sure it was on the roof. So I just make it into like a little box. I take my tool and I just kind of carve in some like mesh details on the front, like where the speaker is. And then I add like a little switch. I made this little cylinder piece here. This will be the like porch light or door light. Then I flatten out some pieces here and shape them into some long rectangles. This will be like the wood and the sheet metal that they use to like lock all the doors and windows and stuff, so that they can be in there and those bat things don't get in. They kind of board up all the windows and stuff. So that first piece was a piece of wood. Now I'm using like this, and I'm kind of sculpting it to almost look like the roof in a way. I probably could have used a couple chunks of the cardboard, but that's alright. This is better because it's thinner anyway. And then I use this to make some snakes, and these are going to be like the what do you call them? They're the vines and stuff that are connected to Vecna. Then I cut a hole in the back of the box. I used a light kit from Five Below. It's one of those ones that you've seen me use a ton. It comes with the remote. It's RGB. It's got a bunch of flashing settings, and so I just glue this in to the top. When I was picturing this idea in my head, I wanted to do like the lightning in the background and everything, but it I don't think it would really come across super well in like this kind of form. But honestly, once I put this stuff in there with the lights and the cotton, it looked pretty cool anyway, and I was happy with it. So this is just some regular like cotton stuffing. And I'm just going in and I'm just kind of putting this around the LEDs. I try to make sure to cover like heavier spots on more like the actual LEDs are, just so that they're not like hot spots. On the camera, it kind of picks it up more. It kind of makes it look more like it's brighter. And in person, it doesn't actually look. It doesn't look like that. So that is the cotton, and I plug it in and give it a quick test, make sure. The other thing that I do to that I apparently I didn't press record. I just used my airbrush and I just kind of sprayed black over the clouds so that they're not like bright white. Kind of blackens them out a little bit, helps the red show through. And so then I glue Eddie on the roof so that I can get everything else kind of where I want it. I glue the vent on, I glue the amp on, and that's the little door light. I glue that on. The lens or like bulb is just a little piece of hot glue I let dry and made it into like a little teardrop shape. So then I glue on the piece of wood, and then I glue this piece of metal over top of that. And then up here, there's a couple pieces of wood on this window. Okay, so I take these vine pieces here and I just glue them onto the front, and I glue a couple of them onto the roof as well. The foam clay that I was using I thought would be a little bit more flexible than it was. There was a couple areas where I was trying to glue pieces from the roof to the siding, and they would snap in half. did a little demonstration for you guys to see exactly what I was talking about. That's some foam clay. I use this stuff for a lot of stuff. It's literally just EVA foam in clay form, and then it dries, and it's very flexible when it dries. So I should have just used this to begin with, but didn't want to try something a little different. So I gave the house a coated black. When I sprayed the clouds black, I just spray painted this whole house black, and then I gave it a silver dry brush on the roof, and some silver on that sheet metal piece across the door, and some dark browns, trying to keep these colors more dark and muted so that it looks like it's nighttime. And so I'm painting the blue on the house, and then I go through and I paint the white. His trailer is more of like a teal color, and it has like a white stripe that goes through the middle of it. So I just go through and I dry brush those spots. Now I start to paint the vent white and the light on the front, and all of the white trim for the doors. The door and the window trim are both white. So I just go through and I get all of that painted white. Then I can go back over it with that same blue and just try to lighten it up a little bit so it's not so dark. Then I go through with some khaki brown. I'm just dry brushing on top of that wood, and I'm also doing like the edges where I had overpaint of blue and white from the house, and just covering that up with some of that brown. And then I do the same thing with these vines. I mixed up some dark brown, basically just brown and black, and I'm just going over and I'm just coating all of those vines with that dark brown color. Again, I'm just really focusing on getting the white and the blue overpaint off the sides of the vines, just so they're all one color. So now that the house is done, I can glue Eddie back on the roof where he belongs. Then I add a little bit of glue to the bottom of the house. And then I glue him in the forefront. I didn't push the house all the way to the back of the box. I wanted it to be more in the front to give a little bit of depth. Now that he's in there, I can kind of smush the cotton up towards the top so that it's not like on his head, so it kind of looks like it's in the sky like it's supposed to be. You can see here I just kind of try to push it up, and then I think I even glued a couple spots so that it would stay up more. And that is pretty much it for the build. I will plug it in and show you guys what the lights look like and a couple of the cool features. And that is it for the video. Hope you guys like it. Please comment and subscribe if you haven't. I try to do cool videos every week, and I hope to see you next time.